Welcome to another exciting episode of Sitecore Unplugged. As always, I have my awesome co-host Jason St Cyr, Director of Developer Relations at Sitecore. My name is Nicole Montero, Digital Marketing Specialist at Sitecore, and today we have a very, very special guest. His name is Mo Cherif, Senior Director of Generative AI at Sitecore. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, Mo, can you introduce yourself to the Sitecore community for those that don't already know you, because most of us already know you?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I'm Mo Cherif. I recently joined Sitecore like about 6 months ago to lead our generative AI strategy across our product portfolio. And before that, I was actually working in the partner ecosystem. So I'm in the Sitecore community for about 12 years now. I've worked for about 20 years in the digital experience and customer experience space, and I'm a 5-time MVP. So I have my MVP swag here as well.
Awesome. So tons of experience with the Sitecore community, 5-time Sitecore MVP. This is actually your last year of being a Sitecore MVP,
Yep,
right?
it is.
Oh,
Yep,
well, we're sad to lose you as a Sitecore MVP, but happy to have you at Sitecore. So let's get into generative AI a little bit. So Sitecore just announced its marketer-driven AI strategy. How is this different, would you say, to what's out there in the industry right now? And what are you most excited about when it comes to this?
Yeah, so our marketing-driven AI strategy aims to understand your brand really by ingesting it and understanding it. So it's not like, for example, ChatGPT, where it just reiterates dull words that don't really adhere to your brand tone of voice. The second thing that I want to kind of call out around our marketer-driven AI is that concept of proactive recommendation. So AI is it's not just sitting there reactive when you ask it. We want AI to be proactive. It recommends what it thinks would best fit. For example, it can recommend how you can enhance your experience in XM Cloud, or can even help you find assets within Content Hub. So it's not just about generating content, and AI shouldn't be just about generating, but it's also about how can it recommend how to reuse existing assets and content pieces in different ways.
All right, well, lots of exciting stuff coming for Sitecore, that's for sure. So, when it comes to generative AI, we know there are limitations and challenges. It's not all perfect, especially when it comes to using it in marketing. So how do you see this being addressed in the future as everything evolves?
Yeah, there is a lot of limitations when it comes to generative AI, whether it's hallucination or copyright issues. But we at Sitecore focus a lot on how to use generative AI responsibly and recommend the same from our customers, from our partners, from our ecosystem. It's run with it, but at the same time, be careful how you use it. Start small, start with productivity enhancers where you are still in the driver's seat and you are responsible for what it comes out with. Use it for ideation, for example, but don't let it become your customer experience or customer interface at first until you can govern it well and ensure that what you're putting out is really representative of your brand.
So, when it comes to generative AI, impacting traditional creative roles, we've seen this in marketing teams. So what new skill sets would you say are becoming valuable as a result?
Yeah, so the first thing, I'm going to have to be cliche and say prompt engineering, right? Because everyone is. But in reality, I don't actually think that this is a long-term thing. Like, AI is improving so much that prompt engineering is going to change as a concept as well. But in the long term, I see it's really about how can you utilize AI as part of your day-to-day work. Because from one side, you don't need to overtrust it, but at the same time, how can you use it to work on your behalf, to do things for you? And we need to always think about them as accelerators while we're on the driver's seat, or we're in the driver's seat, and we need to do the final check. Rob, who leads our design team at Sitecore, always talks about the yep experience, which I really like, and kudos to him for making it up. And the whole idea of it is, when it comes to AI, you want to create necessary friction for users to think about what AI has created and review it. And it's on them to say, yep, it's good to go, or to further fine tune it. And I really like that statement. A lot of people talk about that friction that we need to create to ensure that you realize that it's AI that's generating it and you have the final say.
I really love that, actually, that idea of friction, because in so many ways, what we do as a marketing technology, we're always, how do we reduce friction? How do we make it so a developer can get to start it as fast as possible, that they can find what they need, that a marketer is going to be able to edit their pages with as little in front. And here we are let's put friction in the way. Let's create friction so that they think and they don't feel like this system is taking over. I really like that approach. And you mentioned a few things along here of like stuff that Sitecore has been working on or you've been planning. I'm personally intrigued at like, of all these things that are in the vision and the strategy, what's the one that you go and like that gets you excited? Like you personally as an individual want to get like really deep in that?
I think, in my opinion, is generative UI. The whole idea of being able to stream full experiences, not just text, blows my mind. And I think there's just so much potential with that. As well as that idea of, when it comes to Sitecore, that proactive AI recommendation, so that, again, you're in the driver's seat, but AI is there to help you and really reminds you when you've forgotten something that you should be doing.
So when you're thinking about that proactive nature, right? We're trying to make suggestions in advance, and then you're talking about generating the actual UI and stuff. A lot of how we got to where we are today is that people kind of latched on to how easy it was to create. So we got this, yeah, there were lots of issues. You mentioned them earlier and how, there's limitations. But we've really been improving this whole thing like ridiculously fast. I think about, is it only a year ago that we were seeing those ridiculous like 6-fingered people coming out of like and hands backwards and all kinds of stuff? Like the image generation was just so limited. Like you could see it was generated. And now I think about, now we're generating like video in this span of time. So there's all this incremental improvement in the same idea. Do you think this visual generative AI piece, the predictive stuff, is that what the next big leap is? Like not an incremental, but a big leap? Or where do you think we're going to see that next huge step where people go, wow, I didn't know it could do that?
That's an interesting thing. And I think there is a piece, of course, in that multimodal experience, but in my opinion, the biggest leap is in planning. And what I mean by planning is the ability for large language models to do plans for you. We've already seen rumors around GPT-5 coming out this summer and about it being able to do planning much, much better than anything previously. And even Sam Altman said that it's going to be the jump between GPT-4 and GPT-5 is going to be like the jump from GPT-3 to GPT-4. The other side, when we look at Google with Gemini, they've just released Agent Studio, which is again about agents planning together. And this means we're going to see more of what we call agentic models, which are really these kind of, think of them as different agents or different people or different bots that can work together to solve a problem. And having them self-plan is going to be really interesting, in my opinion. It's going to change a lot of experiences, and it's going to be able to solve problems that today they are not able to. But again, coming back to that necessary friction, how do we start when agents are communicating together, when AI is communicating together and planning together? How do we create the necessary friction to include humans in the loop? And how will that experience become a reality is really, really exciting for me. The second part, going back to generative AI, is about hyper-personalization and how that impacts the marketer's role. Because when we think about hyper-personalization, we're changing a lot of things that we've taken for granted. Like, for example, how do we optimize SEO for hyper-personalized experiences? What does a customer journey mean in that? Because it's no longer well-defined segment-based customer journeys. It's actually a per-person journey that can change on the fly for each person. And how does that impact our searchability and findability on things like Google ranking? All these things I think are going to be very interesting in the future.
I think some folks are wondering what's going to happen with the whole search world in general as people change over to these different interfaces for them to gather information. And we've had so many businesses that have built their entire strategy and plan to reach people based on the level of tech that we've had for the last, 15 years, basically, that we've got this well-established machine. Everyone knows how to do what we need to do to get our message out and reach people, and how to find things. And now it seems like that interface is changing. And a lot of things are changing. Like you mentioned earlier, the hallucinations and copyright infringement, and I know content ownership is something that you and I have talked about, and how do we find tools that are safe to use inside the company? And how do we even develop a process around how do I go and use these tools and use their output, even in a frictioned way? How do I get involved, and then what can I do? What are you seeing out there with enterprises? How do they make it so that it fits in with the way they do business today? Because this is new tech stuff, new ways of doing things that don't necessarily fit with the old ways.
I think AI governance is imperative. Like within Sitecore, we have an AI governance review board, and we also look at how we can use it responsibly and ensure we're catering for these risks. Now, there is no way to cater for every risk. These things are changing very, very rapidly, but we need to keep up. And this is where our AI governance board is always reviewing what's the latest and greatest. We're working with, for example, Microsoft and using Azure OpenAI in a lot of our solutions because of all the mitigation and responsible AI works that Microsoft has done over the past year.
I find this is actually like the area that I think is going to be the most interesting. People talk about where the tech is going to go, and I'm about where's the law going to go? Because I feel like that is the next big thing for me that I want to see in this space is how are governments and corporations going to make the rules around how this is governed, how they're going to hold people. Like, I can't imagine what would happen if Disney found out people were just generating Marvel stuff and making their own Marvel movies and distributing it. They have no rules around how to control that. And so I can see a whole space. I think back to Napster back in the days. Remember when the music industry just exploded? Their brains didn't know what to do. People passed music and distributed it to each other, and they weren't in the middle. They cut out the middleman. And then we saw a whole shift of how we marketed that industry. So I think,
Jason, just adding to your statement about Napster, because I think this is where we are today. We are in that Napster experience, because right now it's kind of like a lawless kind of way of creating these things, but there will become laws, and these laws will become a way to change the paradigm itself, right? Because when we look at how we used to share CDs, right? And we used to have CDs, but now, I don't think anyone uses CDs anymore, but
guilty.
But again, this sharing idea kind of changed the way we do business, or how the music industry does business. So I think that's the same thing that's going to happen now, is these new technology is just going to enforce new ways to do business, really.
Yeah, so times are changing very quickly. So Mo, looking ahead, into the future, I know you kind of covered a little bit about this, but how do you see Gen AI shaping the future in industries such as technology, marketing, education?
Yeah, so technology, I think there's going to be a dramatic change in technology. One is development, of course, will require less coding. We'll have more seasoned developers. I think over the years, the amount of coding has decreased anyway, and this has in turn created more innovation in what we create as technologists, right? And I think this will happen and continue to happen at tremendous speed. From a marketing perspective, I think marketing will change dramatically as well, with increased marketer productivity to hyper-personalized experiences. It's just going to be a whirlwind of experiences that marketers need to grasp. And again, opportunities for marketers to find new ways to target their market and access their customers in a more personalized way. Education is where I'm very passionate about how Gen AI can help education. Like, I dream of education becoming much more accessible to everyone, and where AI can become a personal tutor for many, where it can help them cross things like language barriers or maybe disabilities that they may have, where Gen AI can help them through that. So I'm very optimistic on how it can help through education.
Well, Mo, let's bring it back here for the last question to the community, Sitecore community. So what is your message to the Sitecore community?
Take me back.
You're still part of the community. We'll never not allow you in the community. You're part of us already. But yeah, what is your message, I guess, during these times, where Sitecore is undergoing a lot of change, the industry?
I think the Sitecore community has always been very innovative when it comes to new technology and adopting all these technologies at the speed of light. And I'm already seeing that. Like, I'm seeing so much innovation. Like, even the hackathon was had a whole section around AI, right, and generative AI, which was really cool to see and to see what people came up with. But one of the other things I want to kind of reiterate is think about Gen AI and AI is not just calling OpenAI and telling it to generate something, or any other LLM for that matter. I always say AI is not the solution. So think about the problems that you can use AI to solve. And that's what I would reiterate to the community as well.
Well, thank you for joining us today on this episode of Sitecore Unplugged. Jason, thanks for co-hosting as always. The viewers for tuning in, and we will be releasing another episode featuring another Sitecorean in the upcoming months, so make sure you tune into that, and we'll see you next time. I guess, Mo, I'll be seeing you probably, and Jason at Symposium.
Yep.
Yes? All right. See you
Nashville.
next time. Bye.